When one of country music's most genuine storytellers sits down with one of daytime television's most beloved hosts, you'd expect an interview full of warmth and laughter. But what unfolded between Walker Hayes and Kelly Clarkson became one of the most unforgettable moments in recent talk show memory. It began like any other friendly conversation and ended with an entire studio frozen in silence. What started as a celebration of success turned into an unfiltered confrontation that left both host and guest changed. The set of the Kelly Clarkson show was as inviting as ever. Bright lights, a cheerful audience, and Kelly's trademark energy filling the air. For years, the show had been known as a safe space where artists could open up about their lives without judgment. Kelly had earned that reputation by being empathetic, kind, and curious in a way that always put guests at ease. So when Walker Hayes walked onto her stage that morning, most people expected another heartwarming exchange about his inspiring rise from financial hardship to country music stardom. At first, that's exactly what it was. Walker sat down with the same easy charm that had made him so relatable to fans. He spoke with genuine humility about his family, his creative process, and the unpredictable path that had led him to success. The atmosphere was light, the conversation easy. Kelly smiled. The audience laughed in all the right places. Everything was going smoothly. But then, as Kelly often does when she wants to dig deeper, she shifted gears. Her tone softened. She leaned forward and began asking about the tough years. The struggle to keep his family afloat, the nights spent wondering how to pay the bills, and the fear of losing everything before his career ever took off. It was the kind of question she'd asked countless guests before, heartfelt, genuine, and meant to inspire. But this time, it hit differently. Walker's expression began to change in subtle ways. His smile tightened, his eyes lost their spark. At first, he tried to stay composed, answering politely, keeping his words short and guarded. But as Kelly continued, asking for more details, about specific moments of fear, about his kids, about what it really felt like to be broke, something inside him seemed to shift. What had started as a gentle interview was slowly turning into something much heavier. Then came the moment that changed everything. Walker paused mid-answer, looked at Kelly, and his tone dropped into something raw and vulnerable. He told her calmly but firmly that those experiences weren't just stories. They were the hardest parts of his life. He said that every time someone asked him to relive those moments for television, it took him right back to that pain. It wasn't just nostalgia for him. It was reopening old wounds. The studio went completely silent. Kelly, taken aback, tried to reassure him. She explained that her goal was to highlight his strength and perseverance, to show how far he'd come. But Walker wasn't ready to move on. His voice grew steadier, his words more intense. He explained what it really felt like, the helplessness, the shame, the fear of failing his family. He said it was like drowning while everyone around you kept smiling. The honesty in his voice was almost too much for the room to handle. As he continued, the tone of the interview completely changed. This wasn't a celebrity sharing a feel-good story anymore. This was a man confronting what he saw as a pattern. The way the entertainment industry often packages real pain into easy inspiration. He looked around the studio, his voice trembling with conviction, and said that what people called inspirational was for him something deeply personal, and he didn't want to perform it anymore. The tension was thick enough to feel through the screen. Kelly tried to steer things back to calm, suggesting a break to regroup, but Walker refused. He stood up and told her directly that he was done pretending his pain was content for public consumption. You could see the shock on Kelly's face. For someone known for handling emotional moments with grace, this was something entirely different. She wasn't facing an emotional guest. She was facing someone challenging the very foundation of how interviews like hers were done. Walker's words were unflinching. He said people only wanted stories of hardship if they ended with a smile and a lesson. He accused the media, and by extension, Kelly, of turning human suffering into digestible inspiration. Kelly tried to defend herself, saying she'd shared her own difficult experiences on her show, but Walker pushed back hard. He reminded her that she got to choose when and how to tell her story. He didn't. The room had become unbearably tense. The audience that once cheered every exchange now sat in absolute silence. unsure whether to clap, gasp, or look away. Kelly's attempts to de-escalate were sincere, but the damage was done. At one point, she told Walker that maybe his attitude was the issue. And the moment those words left her mouth, the air in the studio changed completely. It was like time froze. Walker's expression went blank, and the energy shifted from frustration to disbelief. He looked at her and repeated her words, "My attitude," then calmly explained that what she called an attitude was really exhaustion. Exhaustion from being asked to mind his pain again and again, to relive his lowest moments for other people's comfort. His voice was quiet but carried through the entire studio. It was one of those moments you could feel in your chest. Kelly realized she had crossed a line, but by then it was too late. Walker started walking toward the edge of the set. The cameras followed instinctively, unsure whether to keep rolling or cut to commercial. He stopped near the curtain, turned back to Kelly, and told her that he had come expecting an honest conversation about resilience. Not a segment designed to turn his suffering into what he called inspiration porn. He told her she didn't understand what she had done, that she couldn't, because she'd never had to live it. And with that, he walked off the set, leaving Kelly standing there under the bright studio lights, speechless. For several seconds, the audience didn't move. Even the camera operators hesitated, unsure if they were still filming a talk show or witnessing something much bigger. Kelly finally spoke, trying to steady her voice, apologizing to the audience, and admitting that the conversation hadn't gone the way anyone expected. But it was clear she was shaken. The confidence that usually radiated from her was gone, replaced with something that looked like confusion and regret. When the show cut to commercial, the studio erupted into quiet chaos. Producers rushed to figure out what to do. Audience members whispered to each other, and within minutes, clips recorded on phones started making their way online. The phrase inspiration porn began trending before the taping even ended. Viewers debated whether Walker had overreacted or whether he'd simply said what many celebrities had long wanted to say. Behind the scenes, Kelly was devastated. She hadn't meant to hurt anyone, that much was obvious. But she also knew she couldn't ignore what had just happened. Her producers scrambled to decide how much of the exchange could even air. Some wanted to cut it entirely. Others argued that it was too significant to hide. When the episode finally aired in its edited form, the tension was still palpable. You could feel that something major had happened in that room. In the days that followed, the story took on a life of its own. Every major entertainment outlet covered it. Commentators debated whether Kelly's approach to interviewing was too invasive or if Walker's reaction was unfair. The industry began examining itself, questioning whether talk shows had gone too far in expecting guests to bare their souls for the sake of emotional TV. Even journalism programs started referencing the confrontation in discussions about media ethics. Walker stayed silent for weeks. Then, in a measured social media statement, he clarified that his frustration wasn't just about Kelly. It was about a culture that treats personal pain like a commodity. He didn't apologize for walking off. Instead, he said he hoped the incident would make people think twice about how stories of hardship are handled in the public eye. He also announced he'd be taking a break from interviews to focus on his family and mental health. Kelly eventually addressed the incident herself. She admitted it had been a wake-up call, that she had to reflect deeply on her approach and the balance between empathy and intrusion. She began changing the way her show prepared for emotional topics, introducing new boundaries and ensuring guests had full control over what they shared. Fans noticed the difference. Her interviews became more careful, sometimes gentler, and though some critics called them less spontaneous, others praised her growth. In the end, the confrontation between Walker Hayes and Kelly Clarkson became more than a viral moment. It became a turning point in the ongoing conversation about fame, vulnerability, and the cost of public storytelling. It reminded everyone that behind every moving story is a human being, one who deserves to control their own narrative. And in my opinion, that moment on Kelly's stage wasn't just about conflict, it was about honesty. Uncomfortable, necessary honesty that forced everyone watching to rethink what we call authentic television.